Dr. Ilara Chen squinted through the violet haze of XR-27's atmosphere, her breath fogging the inside of her helmet. The exoplanet's twin suns cast an eerie glow across the alien landscape, painting everything in shades of lavender and indigo. She adjusted the settings on her holo-recorder, making sure to capture every detail of the strange flora surrounding her. Log entry 47. Ilara spoke into her comm, her voice steady despite the excitement bubbling in her chest. Day 12 on XR-27. The planet's ecosystem continues to defy our initial predictions. The plant life here seems to have evolved a unique form of bioluminescence, likely an adaptation to the planet's longer night's end. A piercing shriek cut through the air, causing Ilara to jump. She whirled around, her hand instinctively reaching for the stun pistol at her hip. The dense underbrush rustled violently about 50 meters to her left. What was that? Came the concerned voice of her Arcturian colleague, Zix, through the comm. Dr. Chen, are you all right? Ilara's heart raced as she scanned the area. I'm fine, Zix, but I think we might have company. Can you get a read on any life forms in my vicinity? There was a moment of silence before Zix replied, his voice tinged with confusion. That's odd. The ship's sensors aren't picking up any large fauna near your position. Are you sure you heard something? Before Ilara could respond, the shriek came again, closer this time. The underbrush parted, revealing a creature unlike anything she had ever seen. It was massive, easily the size of an earth elephant, but with a body structure more reminiscent of a predatory cat. 6 muscular legs ended in wickedly curved claws, while a pair of membranous wings lay folded against its sides. The creature's head was adorned with a crown of iridescent feathers, contrasting sharply with the rows of razor-sharp teeth visible in its slightly open mouth. Ilara stood frozen, her mind racing to categorize and understand the beast before her. Its eyes, a striking electric blue, locked onto her with an unsettling intelligence. Zix, she whispered, trying to keep her voice calm. Are you seeing this? By the stars, Zix breathed. It's magnificent. But Dr. Chen, you need to get out of there now. We have no idea how dangerous this creature might be. The creature took a step forward, its nostrils flaring as it seemed to catch Ilara's scent. She knew she should run, but her scientific curiosity kept her rooted to the spot. It's okay, she murmured, more to herself than to Zix or the creature. I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to understand. To her amazement, the creature paused, its head tilted slightly, almost as if it were considering her words. Slowly, Ilara reached out her hand, palm up in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The moment stretched on, taut with tension. Then, impossibly, the creature began to move towards her, its movements now careful and deliberate. Dr. Chen. Zix's panicked voice crackled through the comm. What are you doing? You need to retreat immediately. Ilara ignored him, her focus entirely on the approaching beast. It was close enough now that she could feel the heat radiating from its body, could see the complex pattern swirling in its iridescent feathers. The creature lowered its massive head, bringing it level with Ilara's outstretched hand. She held her breath, hardly daring to believe what was happening. Then, with a gentleness that belied its fearsome appearance, the creature pressed its snout against her palm. A jolt of something passed through Ilara at the contact. It wasn't quite physical, more like a sudden rush of emotions and sensations that weren't her own. For a brief moment, she felt she could sense the creature's curiosity, its wariness, and underneath it all, a deep well of intelligence that took her breath away. Incredible, she whispered, awe evident in her voice. Zix, are you getting this? There's some kind of telepathic connection. I can feel what it's feeling. But her wonderment was short-lived. A high-pitched whine filled the air, and Ilara looked up to see a shuttle breaking through the planet's atmosphere. The creature beside her tensed, a low growl rumbling in its chest. Dr. Chen, Zix's voice came through, sounding resigned. The Galactic Science Council caught wind of our discovery. They're sending a team to assess the situation. Ilara's heart sank. She knew what that meant. The Council, dominated by some of the more militant species in the galaxy, had a tendency to view any new, potentially dangerous species as a threat to be neutralized or exploited. "No," she said, her voice firm. "We can't let them near these creatures. They're sentient, Zix. I can feel it." The shuttle was getting closer, and the creature beside Ilara was growing more agitated. She placed her hand on its side, trying to project calm through whatever connection they shared. "It's okay," she murmured. "I won't let them hurt you." As if understanding her words, the creature relaxed slightly. It turned its piercing gaze to her, and in that moment, Ilara knew her life had changed forever. She had stumbled upon something extraordinary, something that could change the way the galaxy viewed interspecies relationships. But first, she had to protect these magnificent beings from those who would seek to harm or control them. As the Council's shuttle touched down nearby, Ilara steeled herself for the confrontation to come. She didn't know it yet, but this discovery would spark a chain of events that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy, with humanity at its center. For on this distant world, Dr. Ilara Chen had just proven that sometimes only humans could tame the galaxy's most dangerous predators. The connection. 3 standard months had passed since Dr. Ilara Chen's fateful encounter on XR-27. The planet, now unofficially dubbed Chimera due to its extraordinary fauna, had become the center of a galactic controversy. The Galactic Science Council's initial attempts to study, or rather, subdue, the creatures had ended in disaster. Ilara stood before the council, her back straight and her gaze unwavering. The chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species, their murmurs creating a cacophony of alien sounds. "Dr. Chen," the Vulcan Cherbing's voice boomed across the chamber, silencing the chatter. "You claim that these creatures, which have seriously injured 15 of our top xenobiologists, are not only sentient but peaceful. How do you explain their violent behavior towards everyone except you?" Ilara took a deep breath. "Honorable Cherbing, members of the Council, the creatures of Chimera are indeed peaceful, but they are also deeply empathic. They react to the emotions and intentions of those around them. The fear and aggressive intent of your research teams triggered a defensive response." A ripple of disbelief swept through the chamber. The Arcturian representative, Zix's superior, leaned forward. "And how do you propose we study these beings if we cannot approach them without risking life and limb?" "By sending me," Ilara said firmly. "I've established a connection with them. They trust me. Give me a team of my choosing, and 6 months on Chimera. I promise you, we'll learn more about these creatures than an army of frightened researchers ever could." The chamber erupted into arguments, but Ilara stood her ground. She knew this was the only way to protect the Chimerans, as she had begun to call them. To her surprise, it was the Terran ambassador who spoke up in her favor. "We've seen time and again that humans have a unique ability to connect with alien species. Dr. Chen's proposal is sound. I move that we grant her request." After hours of debate, the council reluctantly agreed. 1 week later, Ilara found herself back on the surface of Chimera, this time with a small team of hand-picked researchers. As they set up their base camp, a familiar shriek split the air. Ilara's heart leaped as she saw a massive shape emerge from the underbrush. It was the same creature she had encountered on her first visit. "Hello, old friend," she murmured, reaching out her hand. The Chimeran approached, pressing its snout against her palm. The now familiar rush of alien emotions flooded her mind. "Incredible," breathed Dr. Yara Talik, a young Aseri xenolinguist. "The legends about human empathy are true. How are you doing that, Dr. Chen?" Ilara shook her head, smiling. "I'm not entirely sure. It's like a merging of minds. I can feel its emotions, and I think it can feel mine." Over the next few weeks, Ilara and her team made groundbreaking discoveries about the Chimerans. They learned that the creatures communicated primarily through a complex system of telepathic impulses, which explained why traditional communication attempts had failed. Ilara spent hours each day in silent communion with the Chimerans, slowly learning to interpret their mental language. She discovered that they were not just sentient, but possessed a rich culture and a deep connection to their world. One evening, as the twin suns of Chimera set, casting the world in an ethereal twilight, Ilara sat with her back against a tree. The leader of the Chimeran pack, whom she had named Aurora, curled up beside her. As she absently stroked Aurora's iridescent feathers, she felt a particularly strong surge of images and emotions. Ilara gasped, her eyes widening. "They're showing me their history," she whispered into her recorder. "Their species, they weren't always like this. They evolved, or perhaps were engineered, from smaller creatures. There was another species here once, long ago." The stream of information was overwhelming. Ilara saw flashes of towering crystal cities, of beings that seemed to be made of pure energy. She saw the gradual evolution of the Chimerans, guided by these energy beings. And then, disaster. A great cataclysm that wiped out the energy beings, leaving the Chimerans alone on their world. When the vision faded, Ilara found herself weeping. Aurora nuzzled her gently, projecting feelings of comfort and understanding. "Thank you," Ilara murmured, wiping her eyes. "Thank you for trusting me with this." The next morning, Ilara called a meeting with her team. As she explained what she had learned, she could see the excitement and awe in their eyes. "This changes everything," Dr. Ligjun, a Trevorian archaeologist, said. "If we can find evidence of this precursor civilization, we need to be careful," Ilara cautioned. "The Chimerans are the guardians of this world and its history. We can't rush in and start digging up their planet." As if in response to her words, a commotion outside caught their attention. They rushed out of the research dome to find a group of Chimerans surrounding something. No, someone. To Ilara's shock, it was a human man, dressed in the uniform of a galactic marine. He was on his knees, hands raised in surrender, as the Chimerans growled menacingly around him. "Stop!" Ilara cried out, both vocally and mentally. The Chimerans paused, turning to look at her. She approached slowly, projecting calm and reassurance. "Who are you?" she asked the man. "How did you get here?" The man looked up at her, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe. "Lieutenant Jack Harper, ma'am. I was on a routine patrol when my ship malfunctioned. I crashed here about a week ago. I've been trying to avoid these creatures, but they found me. Then I saw your camp and tried to make a run for it." Ilara helped the man to his feet, noticing how the Chimerans relaxed as she touched him. "It's okay," she told both Jack and the Chimerans. "He's not a threat." As she helped Jack to the medical dome, Ilara's mind was racing. Another human who had managed to approach the Chimerans without being attacked. This couldn't be a coincidence. What was it about humans that allowed them to connect with these creatures? And more importantly, what would happen when the rest of the galaxy found out? As the twin suns of Chimera climbed higher in the alien sky, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the brink of something much bigger than they had ever imagined. The true nature of humanity's place in the galaxy was about to be revealed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The conflict. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Humans possessed a unique ability to communicate with the dangerous and highly intelligent Chimeran species. Dr. Ilara Chen's research, combined with Lieutenant Jack Harper's miraculous survival, had sparked a galactic sensation. Ilara stood at the viewport of the Galactic Council's space station, watching the stars streak by as they traveled at FTL speeds. She'd been summoned for an emergency session, and the pit in her stomach told her this wasn't going to be a friendly scientific discussion. "Dr. Chen," a voice called from behind her. She turned to see Jack Harper approaching, now dressed in a crisp military uniform. "They're ready for us." As they entered the council chamber, Ilara was struck by the tense atmosphere. Representatives from every major galactic power were present, their faces grim. The Volcran Chairbane's voice echoed through the chamber. "Dr. Chen, Lieutenant Harper, thank you for coming. We face a crisis unprecedented in galactic history." Ilara frowned. "A crisis? I don't understand. Our discoveries on Chimera are a breakthrough in interspecies communication. This should be celebrated, not—" "Perhaps," interrupted the Arcturian representative, "you are not fully aware of the political implications of your research, Dr. Chen." A holographic display flickered to life in the center of the chamber, showing news reports from across the galaxy. Ilara's heart sank as she saw the headlines. "Humans, the galaxy's NEW superior species. CHIMERA and BIODWEAONS. Humanity's secret weapon. Galactic balance of power shake IFTs as humans reveal unique abilities." The Asari representative spoke up, her voice calm but laced with concern. "Dr. Chen, your work has inadvertently triggered a political powder keg. Several of our member species are calling for immediate restrictions on human expansion and integration." "That's absurd," Jack exclaimed. "We've done nothing wrong. If anything, this proves humanity's value to the galactic community." The Trevorian counselor's appendages writhed in agitation. "And therein lies the problem, Lieutenant. Many see this as humanity becoming too valuable, too quickly. There are fears that you will upset the delicate balance we've maintained for millennia." Ilara's mind raced. She had been so focused on the scientific implications of their discoveries that she'd failed to consider the wider galactic repercussions. "What do you propose?" she asked cautiously. The Volcran Chairbeing leaned forward. "We have several options before us. Some are calling for the quarantine of Chimera and strict controls on human movement throughout the galaxy. Others suggest more drastic measures." A chill ran down Ilara's spine. She knew what drastic measures often meant in galactic politics. "You can't be serious," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The Chimerans are sentient beings, and humanity has been a peaceful member of the galactic community for over a century." "Peace is fragile, Dr. Chen," the Chairbeing replied, "and fear is a powerful motivator." As the debate raged on, Ilara felt a familiar presence brush against her mind. Despite being light years away, she could sense Aurora's concern. The connection between humans and Chimerans was stronger than anyone had realized. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. The holographic display shifted to show a fleet of ships dropping out of FTL near Chimera. "What is the meaning of this?" the Chairbeing demanded. The harried-looking aide rushed into the chamber. "Sir, it's the Crax Imperium. They're claiming the right to secure Chimera in the name of galactic security." Chaos erupted in the chamber. The Crax, a notoriously militaristic species, had long been looking for an excuse to expand their territory. Now they were using the fear surrounding the Chimerans to justify an invasion. Ilara locked eyes with Jack, seeing her own horror reflected in his face. "We have to do something," she said. "My team is still on the surface. And the Chimerans, they trust us. We can't abandon them." Jack nodded grimly. "I have some contacts in the Terran fleet. If we can get word to them quickly enough, we might be able to mount a defense." As Ilara and Jack rushed to take action, the conflict that had been brewing beneath the surface exploded into full view. The Galactic Council found itself paralyzed, torn between fear of human potential and the need to prevent a full-scale war. Over the next few days, the situation deteriorated rapidly. The Crax fleet engaged in skirmishes with the small Terran defensive force that had responded to Jack's call. Other species began to take sides, either moving to protect their own interests or seizing the opportunity to settle old scores. Ilara worked tirelessly, using every diplomatic and scientific connection she had to try and defuse the situation. But as reports of fighting near Chimera increased, she realized that traditional methods wouldn't be enough. "We need to go back," she told Jack one evening, her face etched with determination. Back to Chimera. If we can establish a stronger connection with the Chimerans, show the galaxy that this bond between our species is a force for peace, not war. Jack raised an eyebrow. That's a big risk, Doc. The cracks have the planet blockaded. Even if we could get through, we'd be walking into a war zone. Ilara smiled grimly. Then it's a good thing I have a Marine to watch my back, isn't it? Their plan was audacious, relying on a combination of Jack's military expertise and Ilara's scientific knowledge. They managed to secure a small, fast ship and plot a course that would hopefully slip them past the cracks' blockade. As their ship approached Chimera, weaving through debris from recent battles, Ilara felt a surge of emotions that weren't her own. The Chimerans were aware of their return, and they were both relieved and afraid. "They know we're here," she told Jack as he piloted the ship through a particularly dense asteroid field. "And they're not alone down there. I'm sensing pain, confusion. The cracks must have landed forces already." Jack's jaw tightened. "Then we'd better hope your connection is strong enough to turn the tide. Because if it isn't, we might just be witnessing the start of a galactic war." As their ship broke through Chimera's atmosphere, alarms blaring from multiple lock-ons, Ilara closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. She felt the presence of Aurora and the other Chimerans, a beacon of familiarity in the chaos that surrounded them. "We're here," she projected as strongly as she could. "And we're going to need your help." The fate of not just Chimera, but potentially the entire galaxy, now rested on the strength of the bond between humanity and these magnificent, misunderstood creatures. As their ship touched down on the war-torn surface of the planet, Ilara and Jack prepared to face whatever challenges awaited them, knowing that the true test of their unique connection was about to begin. The journey. The moment Ilara and Jack stepped out of their ship onto Chimera's surface, they were hit by the acrid smell of smoke and the distant sound of energy weapons. The once pristine alien landscape was now scared by battle. "This way," Ilara said, her eyes closed as she focused on the mental link with the Chimerans. "Aurora and the others are hiding in the crystal caves to the north." As they made their way through the dense, bioluminescent underbrush, Jack kept his weapon at the ready. "I still can't believe we're doing this," he muttered. 2 humans against an entire invasion force. Ilara shot him a wry smile. "We're not alone, Lieutenant. We have some very big, very intelligent allies." Suddenly, a group of crack soldiers burst through the foliage ahead of them. Jack raised his weapon, but before he could fire, a massive shape lunged from the shadows. Aurora, her iridescent feathers gleaming even in the dim light, knocked the crack's troops aside with ease. "Friend Ilara, friend Jack," Aurora's mental voice resonated in their minds. "Danger everywhere. Follow quick." With Aurora leading the way, they quickly reached the crystal caves. Inside, dozens of Chimerans huddled together, many bearing wounds from Crack's weapons. Ilara's heart ached at the sight. "We need to get them out of here," Jack said, surveying the injured Chimerans. "But where?" "The cracks have control of most of the planet's surface." Ilara knelt beside Aurora, placing a hand on the creature's massive flank. She closed her eyes, focusing on their mental connection. Images flashed through her mind. Vast underground caverns, glowing with an inner light. Ancient technology, dormant but not dead. Her eyes snapped open. "The ancestral homes," she breathed. "Aurora's showing me a network of underground cities. Relics from the energy beings who created the Chimerans. If we can reach them, we might find a way to turn the tide." Jack looked skeptical. "Underground cities. Even if they exist, how do we know there's anything useful down there?" "We don't," Ilara admitted, "but it's our best shot. The cracks won't be expecting us to go deeper into the planet." After tending to the wounded Chimerans as best they could, Ilara, Jack, and a group of the healthiest creatures began their journey into the depths of Chimera. Aurora led the way, her mental presence a constant guide through the winding tunnels. As they descended, the natural rock gave way to smooth crystalline structures that pulsed with a faint inner light. Jack whistled low. "I'll be damned. You were right, Doc." Ilara was barely listening, her mind overwhelmed by the flood of information coming from the Chimerains. This place, it's not just a city. It's a nexus of some kind, a control center for the entire planet. They emerged into a vast chamber, dominated by a central pillar of pulsing energy. Surrounding it were what looked like control panels, their surfaces covered in intricate, swirling patterns. "Can you make sense of any of this?" Jack asked, running his hand over one of the panels. Ilara shook her head. "Not directly. But the Chimerains, they have a genetic memory of this place, if I can just." She placed both hands on Aurora's head, closing her eyes in concentration. The mental link between them surged, stronger than ever before. Through Aurora's ancestral memories, Ilara began to understand the purpose of the ancient technology around them. "It's a planetary defense system," she said, her voice filled with awe. "The energy beings created it to protect Chimera from external threats. But it's been dormant for millennia." Jack's eyes lit up. "Can we reactivate it? Use it to drive off the cracks?" Ilara bit her lip. "Maybe, but it's not designed for humans to use. It requires a direct mental interface." Aurora stepped forward, pressing her snout against the central pillar. "We help. Humans guide. Together strong." Understanding dawned on Ilara. Of course, the Chimerains can interface with the system, but they lack the strategic knowledge to use it effectively. We can guide them, work together. What followed was unlike anything Ilara had experienced before. She and Jack linked minds with Aurora and the other Chimerains, forming a collective consciousness that interfaced with the ancient alien technology. Through this union of human and Chimerain minds, they were able to activate the planet's long-dormant defenses. On the surface, the Crack's invasion force found themselves suddenly outmatched. Energy shields sprang to life around key locations. Gravitational anomalies sent their ships spinning out of control. The very landscape of Chimera seemed to come alive, fighting back against the invaders. But as they coordinated the planet's defenses, Ilara became aware of something else. The energy beings who had created the Chimerains and this technology weren't as gone as everyone had thought. Traces of their consciousness lingered in the system, awakening as it was used once more. These ancient minds touched Ilara's, communicating in concepts and emotions rather than words. They showed her visions of the galaxy's past, of the delicate balance they had once maintained between various species, and they showed her a possible future, one where humans and Chimerains together could take up that mantle, becoming guardians of galactic peace. As the Crack's fleet retreated from Chimera, thoroughly routed by the planet's reawakened defenses, Ilara and Jack slowly disconnected from the system. They looked at each other in amazement, both forever changed by what they had experienced. "We did it," Jack said, a note of disbelief in his voice. "We actually did it." Ilara nodded, her mind still reeling from the influx of ancient knowledge. "We did. But this is just the beginning, Jack. What we've learned here, what we've become, it's going to change everything." Aurora nuzzled against Ilara, her mental voice filled with warmth. "New era begins. Humans, Chimerains together. Guardians of peace." As they made their way back to the surface, ready to face whatever diplomatic challenges awaited them, Ilara knew that the journey they had just undertaken was only the first step. The true test would be convincing the rest of the galaxy that the bond between humans and Chimerains was not a threat, but a promise of a brighter future for all species. The ancient energy beings had entrusted them with a grave responsibility. Now it was up to Ilara, Jack, and their Chimerain allies to prove worthy of that trust, and to show the galaxy that sometimes, only by embracing the unknown, can we hope to create lasting peace. The resolution. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was packed to capacity. Representatives from every spacefaring race had gathered for what promised to be the most significant assembly in recent galactic history. At the center of it all stood Dr. Ilara Chen, and Lieutenant Jack Harper, flanked by Aurora, and several other Chimmerans. The sight of the massive feathered creatures in the hallowed halls of galactic governance sent ripples of unease through the crowd. But Ilara stood tall, drawing strength from the mental bond she shared with Aurora. The Volcrin chair being called the session to order, its resonant voice echoing through the chamber. We are gathered here today to address the recent events on Chimera and their implications for galactic society. Dr. Chen, Lieutenant Harper, you have the floor. Ilara stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. Esteemed members of the Council, fellow sentients of the galaxy, we stand before you today not just as humans, but as representatives of a new era of interspecies cooperation. She gestured to the Chimmerans beside her. The beings you see here are not the mindless beasts some have painted them to be. They are intelligent, empathic creatures with a rich culture and history, and they have chosen to ally themselves with humanity not out of subservience, but out of a shared vision for the future. Jack took over, his military bearing lending weight to his words. What happened on Chimera was not just a defeat of an invading force. It was a demonstration of what can be achieved when different species work together in true harmony. A murmur ran through the crowd. The Cracks representative, still smarting from their defeat, stood up. This is nothing but human propaganda. They have somehow enslaved these creatures and turned them into living weapons. They must be contained before they upset the balance of power in the galaxy. Ilara felt a surge of indignation, both her own and Aurora's. Before she could respond, Aurora stepped forward, her mental voice projecting so that all in the chamber could hear. We are not slaves. Aurora's thoughts resonated clearly. We are partners. Humans have gift of understanding, of connecting. They do not control. They collaborate. The chamber erupted into chaos. Many of the representatives had never experienced direct telepathic communication before, and the impact was profound. Some recoiled in fear, while others leaned in, fascinated. The Asuri representative was the first to regain her composure. This is unprecedented. Dr. Chen, can all humans communicate with the Chimmerans in this way? Ilara shook her head. Not to this degree. But our research suggests that all humans have the potential to form some level of empathic bond with the Chimmerans. It's a unique quirk of our neurobiology, one that we're only beginning to understand. And what of the ancient technology you discovered? The Trevorian counselor asked, his appendages twitching with curiosity. Our preliminary scans of Chimera have detected energy signatures unlike anything we've ever seen. Jack fielded this question. The technology is real, and it's powerful. But it's not a weapon to be used or a resource to be exploited. It's a responsibility. Ilara nodded, picking up the thread. The energy beings who created the Chimmerans left behind more than just technology. They left a legacy, a mission to maintain balance and peace in the galaxy. They chose the Chimmerans as their successors, and now, through this unexpected bond, humanity has been invited to share in that responsibility. She took a deep breath, knowing her next words would shape the future of galactic politics. We propose a new role for humanity and the Chimmerans in galactic affairs, not as conquerors or weapons, but as mediators, peacekeepers, a neutral party with the unique ability to bridge the gaps between species. The chamber fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. It was the Volcrin chair being who finally broke the silence. What you propose is radical, Dr. Chen. It would require a significant restructuring of galactic governance. Perhaps, Jack said, but consider the alternative. We've all seen how quickly fear and misunderstanding can bring us to the brink of war. With humans and Chimmerans working together, we have a chance to create a more stable, more understanding galaxy. Aurora stepped forward again, this time accompanied by the other Chimmerans. As one, they projected a series of images and emotions to the assembled representatives. They showed visions of a galaxy at peace, of different species working together to explore the cosmos, of ancient knowledge being rediscovered and used for the benefit of all. The impact was immediate and profound. Even the most skeptical representatives found themselves moved by the sincerity and power of the Chimaran's vision. Debates raged for days. Every aspect of the human Chimaran proposal was scrutinized and questioned. But gradually, the consensus began to emerge. The unique abilities of humans and Chimarans, combined with the wisdom left behind by the energy beings, offered an opportunity that couldn't be ignored. On the final day of the assembly, the Galactic Council announced its decision. Humanity and the Chimarans would be granted a special status within galactic society. They would form a new branch of the Council, dedicated to mediation, peacekeeping, and the exploration of the ancient knowledge left behind on Chimera. As Ilara, Jack, and Aurora stood together, watching the announcement being broadcast across the galaxy, they felt a mix of triumph and trepidation. "It's not going to be easy," Jack said, running a hand through his hair. "There's still a lot of fear and mistrust out there." Ilara nodded, reaching out to scratch Aurora behind her feathered crest. "True, but we've taken the first step. We've shown the galaxy that differences don't have to lead to conflict. That sometimes the most unexpected connections can lead to the greatest breakthroughs." Aurora's mental voice was warm with affection. "Together strong. Humans, Chimarans, guardians. New age begins." As they looked out at the stars, visible through the council chamber's vast windows, Ilara felt a sense of hope and possibility unlike anything she'd experienced before. The journey ahead would be challenging, filled with obstacles both known and unforeseen. But they would face it together, human and Chimaran, united in their commitment to a better future for all sentient beings. In that moment, Dr. Ilara Chen, the scientist who had stumbled upon a discovery that changed the galaxy, understood the true meaning of the phrase that would come to define this new era. Only humans contained the galaxy's most dangerous predators. It wasn't about control or dominance. It was about understanding, empathy, and the courage to reach out across the vast divides of biology and culture to forge true connections. As a new chapter in galactic history began, Ilara, Jack, Aurora, and all their allies, both human and Chimaran, stood ready to write it together.